Well, good evening if you're in Nigeria. Good morning if you're in the US. And I know people are joining me from different parts of the world. I see Drop Communicator. Yay! And interestingly, I'm seeing different wonderful people. I'm seeing River Forever all the way from South Africa. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Sheo Babatunde. Been lots of wonderful people. Glad, excited that you were able to join. And I know more people are joining. We sort of like wanted 5 minutes to pass, then we would start. But I guess we'll just start early anyway, and others will join us as we go on. Well, this is exciting. And let me share my screen and then let's dive in. Today's session will be a very interesting and remarkable one. And the truth is, I am extremely optimistic that there are lots of things that we are going to sort of learn as we dive into the conversations that we're going to be having today. Okay. Let me do this. And yep. Yeah. All righty. Okay. Um, so glad. Can we see my screen? Can you just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. Great. All right. All right. So excited to welcome you to this business leadership masterclass. Um, excited because of two things. Number one, we're planning to do this for many months, and finally we're able to do it. I have this beautiful team. That we've been working together. These people are so remarkable. I mean, from David, to Mariah, to Ubong, to Emmanuel, to Isaac, and I mean, doing remarkable work. We've been putting this together for a while now, and I'm just so excited that finally, the day is the 1st of April and 2025, and we are here. Typically, I don't know about my colleagues and my friends in other countries, right? You know, in Nigeria, we have a joke, right, around April 1st. April 1st is called April's Fool's Day. I don't know if it's global, but but what typically happens, right, is that people play pranks on each other, and then we laugh about it and we call it April Fool. And there's one of the pranks I can never forget. I mean, I was in secondary school, high school, people will call it. And I was part of a body. I was part of the executives of a body, a particular association, and we had, some of the female students who were also leaders in that same body. They decided that they were going to send a gift to their male counterparts, right? I happen to be one of them, so they packed and wrapped this gift and sent it to us. We were so excited to receive it in our male hostel. And when we got it, it was well wrapped. And, so you shake it, you hear, so I said, what could this be? We actually thought it was biscuits, and we were excited. I mean, these were high school students excited to have something to grub and to eat. And then we decided that we're going to wait for every one of us, all the male members of the leadership body, to come together. We're about 6 of us come together. Then we'll open it, and then we would, all eat together. Interestingly, so I and one of my other friends decided, you know what? Let's discover what's in this pack before the others come. So we decided to open it. We opened the first wrapper. We discovered it was wrapped again. There was another wrapper, so another layer. So we opened the second layer, opened the third layer, fourth layer. I kid you not. There were about 7 layers, 7 wrappers. When we opened the 7th one, what we found in it, we saw a note saying April Fool, and the note was surrounded by sand. And no, we in the sun for some rotten food. And you, so we felt so bad. We said, we've been scammed. So we decided that, you know what, we're not going to experience this alone. So we wrapped up, we wrapped everything back very neatly and kept it and waited for the rest. So we're going to all experience this together. So when the rest came, you know, they were all inquisitive. I and my friend were just watching and waiting for them to open all the wrap. We ensured that they were the ones unwrapping this beautiful gift, you know. And then they opened the final one and everybody saw the note and oh my God. So, every April 1st, I remember that particular incident, and it's always interesting and always fun. Okay. All right. So again, welcome to the Business Leadership Masterclass. And just some quick introductions, right? And then we would sort of get into what we're going to be discussing today. Okay. Well, this is sort of my profile, talking about me, what I've done in my very little life, and the other things I'm aspiring to do. Glad to say that I started my career out in strategy, moved into helping businesses grow profits, helping businesses be established, went into leadership development, then accidentally got into the HR space, and I've been in that space for many years, right? Currently, I work with Penorica, right? And I'm the Human Resources Director for Nigeria. And, aside from that, done a lot of change management, done a lot of corporate culture, re-engineering for businesses. I speak in conferences. I write. I have 2 books I've written so far. There are about 3 more I'm writing, right? I'm a life coach. I facilitate team building sessions. And my goal really is to really help people become all they were created to be, right? Worked in different places, worked in outside in HR, worked in Philips Consulting, worked in KPMG, currently work with Pennard, and I currently also have Life, leadership in functional excellence as an organization that I am building alongside some remarkable people, which I mentioned their name earlier. Okay. Done a number of things in my career. Interestingly, started out I have a BSc in Geography, Social Sciences in the University of Ibadan, but then I did a master's. I did a master's in International Law and Diplomacy, in Transformational Leadership, in Divinity. I'm currently doing my MBA, right, rounding up in June, right, and I have a doctorate in Commerce and Enterprise Development. I have a number of HR certifications, all right. Have a project management certification, have certification in workforce planning, ProSci, that's change management, and balance scorecard. I practice that. So I have a number of experiences doing different things, and I'm a full member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria and a senior research fellow with the Institute of Commerce and Enterprise Development in Nigeria. I mean, I love God, love my wife and my 3 boys. They're very dear to my heart. Family is good for me, right? So I'm privileged to also run Life, which is Leadership in Functional Excellence Limited. What is Life? Right? Life is a social enterprise that is focused on leadership development. Our mission is really to change the world and shape culture by enabling both individuals and organizations to discover, understand, and function in their true identity. And what we are poised to do is to empower individuals and organizations become all they were created to be. How do we do that? We do that by education. That's one of the reasons you're here. This is part of what we do. We provide this education through what we call our Life Institute. We talk about life, we talk about career, we talk about business. Today, we're talking about business, right? We also provide advisory support to people around corporate culture, alignment. Culture must be aligned with strategy, right? Change management and leadership. And then we talk about collaboration a lot. And then we do a lot of technology, right? We develop platforms and products that enhance leadership development. And we connect You can connect with us through our website, www.thelifelimited.com. Now, why are we here today? And I think this is, I mean, interesting part. The earlier part, I do not really always like talking about those parts, but it's okay. We're here today. So why are we here today? Well, the Business Leadership Masterclass, right, which we call BLM, for short, was born out of a need to provide relevant and practical knowledge to aspiring and existing business people to thrive. And I think that is extremely important to note. So we're not only talking to people who have existing businesses, but individuals who are aspiring to start their business and to run their business. Okay. Our goal is to help businesses succeed and gain leadership in their operations. And this is not theoretical knowledge. I've been involved in transforming a number of businesses, from large corporate to medium-sized businesses to small businesses. I've been involved in the transformation of those businesses. So this is really from practical knowledge. I can practically tell you when a business is failing and a business is missing it, right? And that's from many years of experience of doing this at different levels and in different sectors, right? So the plan is that BLM will hold every first day of the month going forward. So every first of the month, we'll have a BLM session that we run, and we just run it. I mean, yes, the content you're going to be receiving is worth some good money, but hey, we're running this for social enterprise. We're running this for free. We want people to just learn and people to practice it. If people learn, people practice it, what would happen is that businesses will get better. Individuals will be able to afford things better. Society will get better. And ultimately, we're making the world a better place, right? For each and every one of us. So, hey, we're excited to share the knowledge that we have, all right, with individuals. Today, in this particular edition of BLM, we are going to be speaking specifically to business growth and maximizing opportunities in challenging times. Of course, we all know that these are very challenging times, right? Challenging times on a lot of grounds, right? So you have for those within, and I'm going to be speaking not only locally but globally, because we have some people who are joining from different parts of the world. But beyond that, the truth is what's happening globally is impacting all of what is happening in our local countries, right? Globalization is now the norm. Globalization is now the next thing. It's the thing that is happening everywhere. As a matter of fact, competition is no longer local. Competition is now global. So we're going to be talking about the challenges that we see and what are the opportunities that exist in these challenges, right? And how can we grow our businesses, maximize profit, and do well and do better within our businesses, right? For those of us who are on the call, I mean, you might have a regular job. I do, right? And you might be thinking about how do I ensure that I can also, have, well, some people call it a side hustle, right? But I wouldn't want to call it that. It just is, I believe it's another expression of who you are, right? In terms of, okay, how do I have a business or run a business by the side without necessarily contravening my contracts, right? And ensuring that all the conflict of interest clauses are kept adequately, right? How do I ensure all of those things? So I would strongly advise that, hey, as you listen to the things that are being said, right, take notes. If you have questions, take note of those questions. There's a session where we're going to be getting questions from you, and I'll be answering those questions when we're done with the presentation, right? So, but I would strongly advise that, hey, for those people who have businesses they're currently run, hey, it's time to grow the business, right? If you don't have a business, you have a brilliant business idea. I've tailored this conversation in such a way that it would help you to conceptualize your idea and help you to translate that idea into something you can run and something you can do well in. And then for those of us who, hey, you currently work and you're thinking about how do I successfully start a business, also I'll tailor the conversation, tell you the high things to just note and the things to take note of as you start out on this journey of building a remarkable business. Is that okay? So let's dive in. Okay. I want to start today with a quote by someone who I respect very strongly. His name is Jim Collins. He's written some very remarkable literatures around how business is run. And from his many years of research, okay, he's come to the conclusion that greatness is not a function of circumstance. And I agree with that. Okay. Greatness, it turns out, is largely a matter of a conscious choice and discipline. I'll say that again. Greatness is not a function of circumstance. Greatness, it turns out, is largely a matter of a conscious choice and discipline. I like that. Conscious choice and discipline. Nobody accidentally becomes great. No business accidentally becomes great. No individual, no nation, no family accidentally becomes great, right? Yes, there may be prevailing circumstances, but the choices of the actors and the players in a life, within a business, within a family, within a nation becomes extremely important in translating mediocrity into greatness, right? The conscious choices that they make and the discipline that you subject yourself to become critical factors in defining and determining how great a person, a business, a family, would be, a nation would be. As I say this, I'm reminded of some months back when I had the beautiful opportunity of traveling to South Africa, right? One of the things I made up my mind I was really going to do was to sort of visit the house, go walk around the streets and just experience and get more information, around some of the great individuals, African individuals who lived in South Africa. And there's a street in South Africa called the Vilakazi Street, right? Very popular street. It's the only street in the world that has two Nobel laureates, right? That have Nobel Prize winners, rather, that have sort of come out of two Nobel Prize winners, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and of course Nelson Mandela, right? And as I specifically, went to Nelson Mandela's house, experienced, where he was living and all of that, I was reminded of a number of things. Number one, I mean, in the struggle, and if you've watched all the movies, right, in the struggle against apartheid and all of that, one of the things that stood out was it was not only Nelson Mandela that was fighting for the freedom of his people, right? There were other people, but the difference between him and some of the other people, right, was he had made a conscious choice to forgive, right? A conscious choice to unite the nation, a conscious choice. And it did not come, it didn't come, just frivolously, right? It was also a choice that demanded a certain level of discipline, a discipline of forgiveness, the discipline of hard work, the discipline of working with individuals within the nation to make his nation, South Africa, a great nation, right? So greatness really is never a matter of the circumstance. I've read myriads of stories of businesses, from the Googles of this world to the Netflix, to different ones, right? To the Apples and all of that. One of the things you find consistently is individuals making a conscious choice and subjecting themselves to the necessary rigorous discipline of the things to do that would make their organization a great organization. So I want to start out by saying to every business person or everyone who's listening to me today that, you see, I do not think it pays you nor pays me, right, to play it small. We must play big, and we must make up our minds to things on the face of the earth. So we're here. If you're building a business, make up your mind to build a great business, right? If you're building, no matter what you're in, no matter the sector, no matter the industry you're building a business in, make up your mind that you want to build something great. You want to build something that, as Steve Jobs would say, puts a dent in the universe, something that would add value to humanity, right? It always starts there, and it starts with choice, right? And then subjecting yourself to a number of disciplines that we'll talk about today as you travel on this journey of greatness. Having said that, I want to lay a very important foundation, and that's the foundation that, according to Robert Kiyosaki, right, somebody who speaks a lot around financial education, he says there are four ways people make money, and I think this what you have. There's an image you have in front of you. It's called the cash flow image, right? It's a very important one, and if you've never read any of his books, I think you should read his books. Now, he said specifically that there are four ways people make money, and he's used this diagram to sort of exemplify it. So, number one, you're an employee, right? So, you have a job, and people pay you for the time that you spend, doing that job. Is that okay? So, that's one way to make money. Well, I've heard people say you can never be rich working for someone else. I beg to disagree. I've well, it depends on who you're working for, right? I've heard of individuals who have become billionaires working for someone. Is that okay? So there's no issues being an employee, right? No matter if you're building a big business, you would need individuals who will be employees in that business. Okay, so it's okay. But that's just one way. The second way you make money is through what he calls the S quadrant, right? S, self-employed. Now here you own a job. And what do I mean by that? So you went to school, you learned how to become a doctor, you leave school, you start a hospital, and then you are the doctor in that hospital. You are self-employed, really. Okay. I mean, you learn a particular craft or art, and then you are serving humanity with that art or craft on a daily basis or on weekends. You are self-employed. It's another way to make money. The danger, however, is that every time you are not there, then the business does not move forward, right? Because the same way as an employee, you have to be in the office. You have to show up in the office, right? Before you can earn, right? As a self-employed, you also have to show up before you can earn. So even though you can make money as an employee, you can make money as being self-employed, largely, there is some limitations around how much you can make. Is that okay? Number three rather, is by being a business owner. What does that mean? Somebody who owns a business system and people work for you, right? So somebody who owns a business is somebody who, and I'm talking about a business owner now. A business owner is somebody who you own a business and there are systems in place in that business for the business to run, okay? And so you can step out for 1 month, the business is running because the system is running. Is that okay? And money is coming in, value is being delivered to people, and people are working for you. People are getting things done on your behalf. So that's beautiful, business owner. The fourth is by being an investor. So you invest in different things from investing in stocks, investing in bonds, investing, even if it's a money market, you're investing, or you're investing in another person's business, you're investing, right? And your money is working for you and your money is being multiplied, and then you can make money, right? What I've discovered is that people who really, if when you're talking about making a lot of money, a lot of times it's always in the B and the I quadrants. Okay, everybody. I mean, yesterday or day before yesterday, Forbes released the list of the wealthiest Africans, right? In Africa, right? The wealthiest Africans. Yes, Dangote was 25 billion. He's grown his wealth. Of course, we all know why. The refinery is open in Nigeria. It's helping, right, as much as it can. But I look at the 10 people, and I was just reviewing that just before I came into this meeting, right, or this seminar. I was reviewing the 10 top people, and as I reviewed, it occurred to me they are all business owners or investors. Simple. All business owners or investors. It would be difficult to get anybody who is self-employed fall into that category, or anybody who's an employee fall there, right? So as an employee or self-employed, you can live very comfortably, right? But a time comes that if you want to break into certain levels of wealth, right, and certain levels of providing value to humanity, you would have to become a business owner or an investor. I tell you. Now, having laid this foundation, all right, who are the people I'm going to be speaking to? I'm speaking to individuals who are interested. If you're an employee, I am challenging you, all right, to, as you work very diligently where you work, which is good, please think about something you can also do to add value. Because if you keep working, one day you're going to resign, or you're going to you get retire, right? And when you hit retirement age and you leave after retiring, you start to wonder, okay, what am I going to do? So, right. So it's, for me, if you're employed, I would always advise it's either you create a small business that you can grow, or you are investing as you make your money. Make sure you're investing. Don't spend everything on yourself. Is that okay? So make sure you're investing. Now, if you're self-employed, I'm challenging you to grow your business from depending solely on your energy, your effort, and all about you, right, to becoming a business owner. Is that okay? Because at that level, you are able to create greater value, and trust me, you are able to do it with less stress. Okay. And then, if you are a business owner, you are self-employed, you are an employee, I would challenge you that in the midst of everything, make sure you're invested. Is that okay? All right. Having said that, let's speak to individuals who are building a business, or you are translating a small business into a big business. Let me just lay this foundation again, right? What are the phases that businesses go through as they grow? The very first phase is what I call the startup, or the early stage, right? The startup or the early stage. At this stage, you started the business is running. I mean, depending on the country you're operating in, right? This business will be categorized as an SME, a small or medium scale business, right? And you're starting, the business is in its early stages. You might be starting in your garage. Most of the big Silicon Valley companies started in the garage. So you might be starting in your garage. You might be starting just on your laptop. You might be starting, just you and a few friends, you and some few people. You're starting just in your startup phase, your early stage. What are the key things you are doing in this stage? You are defining the purpose of the business, why the business should exist. You are identifying the product and services you want to sell. Based on the demands of the market, not based on your whims and caprices. I think people make that mistake, right? I've made that mistake a number of times, I tell you. Where I start a business, I develop a product or a service that I like, right? And when I get to the market, then I discover, okay, maybe people are not as excited about what I'm talking about as I am. So, so here you're defining what is the product or the service you want to offer. And then in terms of strategy, you're defining your strategy, how you're going to go to markets, and you're defining who your customers will be, all right, and how to engage your customers. All of that you're doing at the startup and early stage. Now, the next stage is the stabilization stage. Now, as you start up, after a while, your business begins to make some profits. You begin to make some money. You are in a place where, okay, you can hire more people. You create more processes. There is a demand. Some of it are regulatory, some of necessity. If you're going to move that business forward, you have to create structure. If you're going to scale the business, you have to create structures, you have to create processes, you have to create policies that would help the business to be stabilized, So you have to do that. That's the stabilization phase. The third phase is the expansion phase. A lot of people stabilize and they stay there, For each of these phases, I must say, there is a skill in moving from one phase to the other, all right? So after stabilization, the next thing you should be gunning for is the expansion stage. Here you are expanding, and you're expanding the system of your production, right? To ensure that it is able to go into other territories. Not necessarily you going into other territories. You might do it through partnerships, do it through strategic collaborations. You might do it by your product going into other markets, all right, and other territories. But what does this tell us? At the expansion phase, you are serving more people. You are becoming global in some instances. You're going global. And what is the impact or the implication of that? The impact is that at this stage, you must start to think about serving in customers and clients in different parts of the world. You cannot think local alone at this stage. All right. So after expansion, you go to consolidation. At the consolidation phase, you've expanded, you're consolidating. You're doing something similar to what you did during stabilization, right? But at the consolidation phase, what you're doing is that you are attaining and retaining market leadership in whatever sector you're playing in. Okay, there are some organizations that if I mention today, everybody on this call, you know them. Meanwhile, there are some other organizations who are in the same sector. I mentioned them today, you might not know them. And it's okay, right? It just depends on what phase that business is in. And then after consolidation, the next thing is diversification. So there was a time when the two guys who started Google came together, PhD students, after their PhD came together and they started, let's create a search engine. And they started, right? And started, of course, popular story in their garage, right? And they start, after a while, they discovered that, you know what? We have grown a little bit. People are beginning to know us. We need to stabilize. So, hey, put structures. Maybe, okay, so what's your grade? What's your rank? What is your title? We need to hire HR. We need to hire finance. We need to hire, these very critical roles that help you to stabilize effectively. We need to have policies on how our employees would relate, our employees come in, how we hire, how we, how we exit people, how all of those things would have to come into play. What is our health and safety procedure? What is our security procedure? All of that will come into play. After that, they say, okay, you know what? So we're popular, we're good in America. Can we expand beyond America? They try to get into other territories, Africa, Europe, and the rest of them. And after that, they say, you know what? Let's consolidate and become the market leader, such that people now would, if they want to tell you, go search for something, they say, can you Google it? You see it? So from a startup has become so consolidated and they've attained market leadership such that people even use their name to define an action, right? So after attaining that market leadership and they're saying, okay, you know what, we're not going to stop here, let's diversify. So they begin to diversify into a lot of other things, Gmail, YouTube, all of those things that helps them to consolidate and make them stronger, So these are the 5 phases of business growth. Every business that is going to do great things and arrive at diversification would have to go through these phases, right? Now, having said that, let me just explain and give some clarity around each of these phases. Now, at the startup and the early stage, right, what is the greatest need of the business? Clarity and customers. Clarity and customers. You see, at the startup phase, the greatest need of the business is not opening a massive office, opening a massive office, buying official cars, all of that. No. At the startup and the early stage, the most important thing for the business is having clarity around why we exist as a business, having clarity around what product are we pushing and are we going to major on as we travel, having clarity around what is our strategy, because your strategy defines how you're going to go to market and how you are not going to go to market. So what is our strategy for engaging, right? Clarity. You must have clarity around those 3 things. And customers. All of those things must lead to you gaining customers. What you want to do is gain customers, retain customers at the startup and early stage. That's what you want to do, right? You want to do great work so that your customers would keep coming back and would realization phase. Here you're putting in structures, processes, policies. What you need the most is a solid team. that would help to make all of these things a reality, all the structure, all the processes, all the policies a reality. You must hire smart people that are going to translate all of the things that you want done into actionable structures, customized structures, as I will say, actionable processes, and actionable policies. Now, at this stage, you are also defining culture, okay, very strongly. Some things that you did in the startup phase that you might not have paid a lot of attention to as what you want your culture to be, right? At the stabilization phase, you cannot, at this stage, you are defining what your DNA is in terms of culture, and you are ensuring that that culture is permeating throughout the entire organization, and you're making it a process, a system, such that anybody who enters and comes into your organization becomes the culture that you want them to become to achieve your strategy. Then at the expansion phase, it's important that you're building strategic alliances, partnerships, collaborations, and you're getting investments. It takes money to expand, right? It takes money to go global. And at this phase, you are thinking about strategic alliances because you must be conversant that your business would exist in a particular venue, a particular place. However, to engage the world effectively, you must understand the cultures of the world. I remember when I was doing my SPHRI class, they told me that one of the most critical competencies, right? Critical competencies of leadership of any organization that is thinking of operating globally, right? Or regionally, as the case may be, is cultural intelligence. Very important. Cultural intelligence. And I usually tell people this story, right? I remember many years ago, I was working, consulting for a particular organization. I was hiring, so they were setting up factory and setting up shop in Nigeria. It's a German organization, right? Setting up factory in Nigeria. And so I was leading the project to hire all the employees, the HR director, everybody, the CEO, country manager, everybody, right? And they had their African office headquartered in Kenya. So the lady who was the head of HR director in Kenya, wonderful German lady, she flew into Nigeria, and we ran the interviews together, especially for the critical roles. And I can never forget, right? Now, she came into Nigeria after the interviews and speaking to a number of people. We were now debriefing. And of course, the first role we're going to do a debrief about was the role around the country manager. And we had this guy from L'Oreal who we were speaking to, and we were going to do a debrief about. And then she says, "Oh, so Joshua, what do you think about this guy?" And I said, because this company was an FMCG, right? So I said, "Well, I think the guy is okay." And she says, "Oh, really? He's okay. Should I hire him?" And I said, "No." I said, "He's okay." Now, you see what was happening. And because she was confused, she said, "But you said he's okay, right? So why shouldn't I hire him if he's okay?" And I said, "No, no, 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 no." So I now explained to her, I said, "Okay, in Nigeria, right? In Nigeria, we are very high context in terms of our culture. Well, I understand she's German. She's very low context in terms of our culture. And let me explain what that means. So high context cultures, right? The mantra is do as I do, not necessarily what I say. Okay? In low context cultures, the mantra is do as I say, not necessarily what I do. So, in a low context culture, when I say I am coming, I must be walking towards you. In a high context culture, I can tell you I'm coming, and I get up and I leave the room. Right? Somebody who is from a low context culture cannot understand that. But you said you're coming. But how are you coming and you're leaving the room? And in a, in a high context culture, we get it. It's not a problem. When you say, I'm coming, and you get up and you're leaving the room, what he tells us is he's going. He's only saying that after a while, I'll be back. That's what he's saying. No issues. Right? Now, that is a clash of cultures, right? So I had to explain that. I say, oh, and I too learned that, okay, Joshua, don't say it's okay. If it's fine, say it's fine. If it's not fine, say don't do it. Okay. Now, so cultural intelligence becomes extremely important for the leadership at the expansion phase, right? And strategic alliances, collaborations, because we see we are living in an age that is globalization plays a very active role in the things we do. So you don't necessarily need to go build shop, move office to one place, and all of that for you to be present there. You can be present there through a strategic alliance. You can be present there through a joint venture. You can be present there through a partnership. You can be present through a strategic collaboration with another business, right? So at the expansion phase, these two things become extremely important. Of course, investment, it takes money to invest, to expand. Consolidation phase, right? At this phase, things that are important. Number one, a solid brand. Your brand becomes extremely important. I was having a conversation with the team earlier today, and I told them, I said, it's amazing. In the year 2000, right? In the year 2000, Coca-Cola, the brand Coca-Cola, was worth $80 billion. The total assets of Coca-Cola all over the world was worth about $8 billion. Here again, the brand, 80 billion. The assets, all the factories, the equipment, all of that, 8 billion. The brand was about 10 times more valuable than the assets. So you could take the assets, but as long as they had the brand, they had the business. So at the consolidation phase, what are you really interested in? Strengthening your brand, right? And also ensuring consistency in service, because there is that temptation that as you expand, you begin to have dilution of your service across the various parts of the world. So you want to ensure that there is consistency of service everywhere in the world. People are experiencing the same thing when they interact with your brand globally, right? And then at the diversification phase, what are you focused on? Innovation and, of course, massive investments. Because here you're going into other sectors, so you're innovating, right? You're innovating. And then you need more investments to diversify. You're going to be building, but trust me, if you've done phases 1 to 4 properly, phase 5 would be a walk in the park, as long as you have smart people and you have a vision of what you want to do. Is that okay? All right. So the big question I have for each and everyone on the call today, if you do have a business, where is your business, right? Where is your business? Is your business in the startup or early stage from everything I have described? Is it in the stabilization phase? Is it in the expansion phase? Is it the consolidation phase or diversification phase? And wherever your business is in, and I'm sure most of it will be the startup and early stage / stabilization phase, right? Wherever your business is, right? I want you to start to think about what the greatest needs are. Start to think about it, okay? Now, what challenges, right, are we faced with? Now, Peter Drucker said that we are living in an era of accelerated change, overwhelming complexity, and tremendous competition, and also lightning communication, right? So it's an era of 4 C's: change, complexity, competition, communication. Things are happening so fast. Change is happening ridiculously fast, right? I mean, and it's happening in an accelerated pace, okay? So what used to be the in thing today, by tonight, is no longer the in thing, okay? There was a time that when you had a telephone, right? The telephone would, you would use it for 3-4 years before another version comes out. But we're in an age now where in the same year you have different versions of the same telephone company producing different versions, right? So things are happening so fast. Same thing with cars, okay? and overwhelming complexity. Things are not as simple as it sounds. Now we're talking about wicked problems, right? So, I mean, if it's not as simple, say a question that many years ago would be so simple, how do you solve poverty? Be so simple. I mean, in our day and age, how do you solve poverty is a wicked problem, right? Because there are lots of tentacles attached to it. Then tremendous competition. Competition is now global. Okay. I tell people that your competitor is not the local company beside your house or on your streets or in your state. Your competition is that business that is somewhere in China that is thinking about coming to Nigeria or thinking about coming to Africa to set up shop. I mean, if they do it successfully, all of a sudden you discover that your business is gone. Okay. And lightning communication. Lightning communication. Things are happening so fast. Communication is happening. I mean, it's getting shorter. Chat GPT, AI, all of those things are helping with communication. Is that okay? Okay. Now, we also live in that era of what we call the VUCA era, right? So volatile, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. These are things that characterize the environment that we live in. Things are not straightforward. Things are not as simple as we say they are anymore. Things are very ambiguous now. Now, with all of that happening, what are the four forces that are shaping them, right? Technology, globalization, of course, COVID-19 played a critical role, and social policies. These four things are shaping the way businesses operate now. Okay. And so these are the things that are impacting, some of them creating challenges, some of them enabling the way we do business now. So regardless of all of the challenges, the complexity, the ambiguity, the volatility that exist in the world today, the truth is that these four factors are shaping it, right? And if we say that, oh, these factors are going to be inhibitors, the truth is there are businesses that are leveraging these four factors to progress their interests, right? And to do something great. So it's never an excuse. That's what I'm saying. It's never an excuse to say, oh, the challenges are too much. I cannot build the great business I want to build. The question is understanding how to do it, which is how I'm going to be ending this session, right? So how do you do it? How do you thrive in the midst of all of this? So you have a business idea, you've sort of situated where the business is. Okay, it's in the early stage. The things we should be focusing on is branded as our customers, is our identity, our purpose. Okay, you're at the stabilization phase. Okay, I built a business. I want to stabilize this business. I need to invest in hiring smart people, not ignoring customers and your identity, refreshing your identity and strategy anyway. And you're thinking about all of that. However, we are faced with challenges, right, in the world today. There are some tariffs are being threatened to kick in, maybe from tomorrow or the rest, from Europe to America. What is the implication of that on my business? You're thinking about all of that. However, there are things to do to strive, and I have seen these things work for businesses all over the world. I believe there are 6 things, right? 6 things, and I've called it the 5V and T framework, right? So there are 6 things, the 5Vs and the 1T, right? It's a framework I developed from my experience and from interacting with businesses. So number 1 is vision. Number 2, values. Number 3, venue. Number 4, value proposition. Number 5, visibility. And the last is teamwork. Is that okay? So let's just touch on each of this, and then we'll take your questions. Vision. What do I mean by vision? Vision is when you have a clear idea of why your company or your business exists and what you want to achieve. Sadly, a lot of businesses are not clear on what their vision is. Very sadly, a lot of businesses are not very clear. They have a vision statement. Don't get me wrong. There's a vision statement, right? But in terms of the extent to which they want to fulfill the reason why they exist, a lot of businesses lack it. And if you're an individual here, you've just started a business, don't settle, right? Don't be comfortable when your business can sponsor you to travel for summer. Your business can sponsor you to buy one or two things. You can pay fees of the kids. You can buy a house, and then you're relaxed. You know, a lot of businesses have died that way. But when we're talking about vision, we're talking about building that business that would cause massive societal impact, right? So whatever vision you, whatever business rather you currently have, if it's an idea and you want to begin to execute, or you currently run a small business, I want to admonish you. I want to plead with you, all right? I want to plead with you that please and please make sure that the vision of that business is much, much bigger than you, right? It's something that will speak for generations. That's how you build a great business, right? A vision that says, you know what, we're going to influence the whole world, and then you throw in all of the energy and the discipline required to do that. That is the kind of business that will win. Okay, so number one is vision. Number two is values. You must be clear on what the values that you're going to sustain within your business are. What are the acceptable behaviors within your business? You know, anything cannot go. You know, if integrity means something to you, then let integrity mean something from day one. And whatever you need to put in place to ensure that it is obvious to everyone that integrity means something to your business, you need to put that in place. If it means hiring an accountant, if it means, you know, getting, you know, a software, and there are softwares these days that can help, QuickBooks, you know, Sage, if it means getting a software, whatever it takes, make sure that you are able to define what are the acceptable behaviors within your business. If you don't, you see, those wrong behaviors would detract any vision, no matter how solid it is. So, values. The next thing is the venue, right? The venue, right? The understanding. And when I mean venue, I'm talking about the understanding, you know, and, you know, leveraging the environment in which your business operates. And what do I mean? Here, you're talking about, for example, if you're operating a business in Nigeria, you must understand what the rules and regulations says. What is the Nigerian environment like? And then, when you want to go global, you want to play globally, you must also understand what the rules and regulations say. That as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, one of the first things you must expose yourself to is knowledge about the environment. Now, some of us, I mean, you never even care what's happening on CNN, what's happening on BBC, what's happening in the world around you. I mean, you should care, because all of those things have an implication on your business, right? They all have an implication on your business, okay? And then, what is the fourth? Value proposition, right? The unique benefit a company offers to its customers. And when I mean customers, I'm talking about internal and external customers. Apologies, I'm seeing a lot of typos from my graphics guy. I don't know, but it's okay. So, value proposition, right? What are the unique benefits a company offers to its customers, right? And I'm talking about both internal customers and external customers. Internal customers and external customers. It is extremely important. What is that unique thing that we're going to be offering to our client? Why should our people buy from us? Why should they buy from me? I mean, sometimes you're going into a space that you already have individuals who are market leaders. I believe a very important question you must ask yourself is why? Why should they buy from me? Why? And that question leads you to think, because it begins to help you to think, okay, so how do I serve, you know, my services, my products in such a way that is unique and is distinguished, right? Such that when people experience me and they experience my customer, my competitor, they'll say, you know what, I'll stick with this guy or this person or this business, right? And then the last is teamwork, a level of single-mindedness and collaboration amongst the people within the business, right? Extremely important. You cannot build anything great without a great team. Is that okay? So, as you look at your value, You look at all of the other V's, right? Visibility, which talks about marketing, right? You look at all of those V's and you're looking at everything. You must also consider the team that will deliver this. Is extremely, extremely, extremely important. Extremely, extremely important. Extremely important to look at the team that will deliver it. So, in conclusion, I would say the best way to predict the future is to create it. I didn't say it, Abraham Lincoln said it. The best way to predict the future is to create it. So, what am I saying? I believe we can build great businesses. I believe we can build businesses that would influence and impact the world, right? But something that we must do is to create it. We have to make the conscious choice and submit ourselves to the necessary discipline that would help us to create the kind of businesses that we want, the kinds of businesses that would make impact and would do great things on the face of the earth. So thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me.